Maya stands in the boardroom, hand in hand with a 3-year-old girl who has piercing blue eyes. Ethan Blackwell freezes, staring at the child he's never met. His daughter. The woman he fired 3 years ago for being pregnant now owns his entire company. "Shall we discuss the terms of your new employment?" Maya asks, her voice ice cold. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. Maya's hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the pregnancy test on the bathroom floor of her tiny apartment. 2 pink lines, clear as day. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at those lines like they might rearrange themselves into something less terrifying. 3 years she'd worked for Ethan Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Industries, one of the most successful tech companies on the West Coast. 3 years of arriving before him, leaving after him, organizing his life, protecting his time, making sure every detail of his empire ran smoothly. And now this. She pressed her hand against her still flat stomach, trying to process the reality. 6 weeks pregnant with her boss's child. A boss who'd made it crystal clear their one night together 3 months ago had been a mistake, an error in judgment fueled by too much champagne at the company's annual gala, and the adrenaline of closing their biggest deal yet. He'd apologized the next morning with the same tone he'd used to correct a typo in a contract. Professional, distant, final. Maya had pretended it meant nothing to her too, even though her heart had been hammering in her chest every time he walked past her desk for weeks afterward. She'd buried those feelings, convinced herself it was just physical attraction, nothing more. But now, there was no burying this. She had to tell him. The thought made her want to throw up, and she wasn't sure if that was morning sickness or pure terror. The next morning, Maya arrived at the office an hour early. She needed time to compose herself, to practice what she would say. But Ethan was already there, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows in his corner office, coffee in hand, staring out at the Seattle skyline. He always looked like that, powerful, untouchable. At 35, he'd built Blackwell Industries from nothing, and he wore that success in every sharp line of his tailored suits, every calculated decision. Maya had admired that about him once. Now it terrified her. "You're here early," he said without turning around. "I need to talk to you," Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. "About?" "Something personal." That made him turn. Ethan Blackwell didn't do personal. His blue eyes, sharp and assessing, locked onto hers with the intensity of a man who could read profit margins in a glance and predict market trends before anyone else saw them coming. But reading human emotion? That was a language he'd never bothered to learn. "Can it wait? I have the Meridian meeting in 20 minutes. "No," Maya said, surprising herself with the firmness. "It can't wait." Something in her tone made him set down his coffee. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, but remained standing himself. Power play, Maya thought. Everything with Ethan was a power play. "I'm pregnant," she said. No preamble. No softening the blow. Just the truth, sharp and unavoidable. The silence that followed felt like falling off a cliff. Ethan's expression didn't change at first. He just stared at her like she'd spoken in a foreign language. Then his jaw tightened, a muscle twitching in his cheek. That was the only sign he'd heard her at all. "It's mine?" His voice was cold, clinical. Maya felt something crack inside her chest. "Yes." "You're sure?" "Yes." Another silence, this one worse than the first. Ethan walked back to the window, his back to her. Maya watched his shoulders tense beneath his perfectly pressed shirt. She waited for him to say something, anything. When he finally spoke, his words felt like ice water. "What do you want?" Maya blinked. "What do I want? Financial support? A settlement? Name your price." The words hit her like a slap. Name your price. Like this was just another business transaction. Like their child was a problem to be solved with money. "I don't want your money, Ethan," Maya said, her voice shaking now. "I'm telling you because you have a right to know." "Because I thought, maybe you'd want to be involved." He laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. Involved? Maya, I'm running a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't have time for complications. Complications? She stood up, her shock turning to anger. This is your child. This is a mistake, he corrected, finally turning to face her. His eyes were hard, unreadable. One we clearly should have prevented. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. She'd expected shock, maybe fear, even denial. But this cold calculation, this reduction of their baby to an inconvenience on his calendar, she hadn't prepared for this. I thought you were different, she whispered. I thought underneath all the corporate armor, there was someone who actually cared about something other than profit margins. Then you thought wrong. Ethan walked to his desk and pulled out his checkbook. The gesture was so dismissive, so insulting, Maya wanted to scream. I'll provide financial support. That's reasonable, but I won't be involved beyond that. It's better for everyone if we keep this simple. Simple? Maya's voice rose despite herself. I'm having a baby, Ethan. Your baby. There's nothing simple about that. Then maybe you should consider whether having it is the right choice. The words hung in the air between them like poison. Maya felt her whole body go cold. Are you seriously suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm suggesting you think about your career, your future, Ethan said, his tone maddeningly rational. You're 28 years old with your whole life ahead of you. A child right now would derail everything you've worked for. And you? What about what you've worked for? Exactly my point. I can't afford distractions. Distractions. That's what he'd called their night together. That's what he was calling their baby. Maya realized with a sinking clarity that she'd been desperately wrong about Ethan Blackwell. She'd thought the man who occasionally softened when they worked late together, who'd once told her she was the only person in the company he trusted completely, who'd looked at her at that gala like she was the only person in the room, that maybe that man was real. But he wasn't. Or if he was buried so deep under layers of ambition and cold pragmatism that he might as well not exist. I'll need your resignation, Ethan said, returning to his desk like they'd just concluded a normal meeting. Maya's head snapped up. What? Your resignation, effective immediately. You're firing me. I'm asking for your resignation. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides. You're firing me because I'm pregnant. I'm accepting your resignation because this working relationship is no longer tenable, Ethan said, his voice devoid of emotion. You'll receive 6 months severance, a generous reference, and full medical coverage through the end of the year. Sign the papers, and we're done. You can't do this, Maya said. But even as the words left her mouth, she knew he could. He absolutely could. Ethan Blackwell could do anything he wanted. He had lawyers, money, power. She had none of those things. The papers will be on your desk within the hour, he said, sitting down and opening his laptop like she'd already ceased to exist. I suggest you take the offer. Fighting me on this would be expensive and ultimately pointless. Maya stood there for one more moment, looking at the man she'd thought she knew. The man she'd been foolish enough to develop feelings for. The man whose child was growing inside her. He didn't look up again. That was what finally broke her. Not the firing, not the callousness, but the complete and utter dismissal. Like she was nothing. Like she'd never mattered at all. Maya walked out of his office with her head high, even though everything inside her was shattering. She made it to her desk, gathered her few personal belongings, ignored the curious stares from other employees who could sense something had happened. By the time the severance papers arrived, she'd already cleaned out her drawers. She signed them with a shaking hand, not because she agreed with anything Ethan had done, but because she was a single woman about to have a baby with no job, no support system, and a rapidly dwindling savings account. She needed that severance. She needed that insurance. She hated that she needed anything from him, but pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. I hope you're happy, Maya said to the HR representative who'd brought the papers, though she knew her words weren't meant for this poor woman who was just doing her job. They were meant for Ethan, wherever he was in his glass tower, probably already forgetting she existed. Maya left Blackwell Industries that day and didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked back, she might crumble completely. The first few months were harder than anything Maya had ever experienced. She applied for jobs. But explaining a sudden departure from a 3-year position at a prestigious company raised questions she couldn't answer honestly without risking her chances. She took a part-time position at a small marketing firm, work that paid a fraction of what she'd made before and offered none of the challenges that had made her feel alive. Her apartment, which had felt cozy when she had a steady income, now felt like a prison. She'd lie awake at night, hand on her growing belly, talking to her baby, making promises. "I'm going to give you everything," she'd whisper in the darkness. "I'm going to make sure you never feel unwanted. Never feel like a mistake." Some nights she'd think about Ethan. Wonder if he ever thought about her. Probably not. Ethan Blackwell didn't do guilt. He did spreadsheets and cold, calculated decisions. By her 7th month, Maya had moved to a smaller apartment in a less expensive neighborhood. She'd started taking online business courses in the evenings, something she'd always wanted to do but never had time for when she was working 80-hour weeks for Ethan. Then the complications started. High blood pressure at 32 weeks. Bed rest ordered by her doctor. No work, no income, just lying in her cramped apartment watching the walls close in and the bills pile up. Maya had never felt so helpless, so completely at the mercy of circumstances beyond her control. She called her mother in Ohio, the first time they'd spoken in over a year after a falling out about Maya moving across the country for her career. "Come home," her mother had said immediately, old disagreements forgotten in the face of crisis. "No," Maya had replied. "I need to do this on my own." Pride or stubbornness, she wasn't sure which. Maybe both. At 36 weeks, Maya's water broke while she was heating up soup in her tiny kitchen. She called an ambulance, alone, no one to hold her hand or tell her it would be okay. In the emergency room, hooked up to monitors, contractions coming hard and fast, she thought about Ethan one last time. Wondered what he was doing. Probably in some meeting, talking about market shares and quarterly projections. Probably hadn't thought about her once in all these months. Then the pain got too intense for thinking. And there was only the work of bringing a new life into the world. 14 hours of labor, alone. A nurse named Carmen held her hand and told her she was doing great, that she was so strong. Maya had never felt less strong in her life, but she pushed anyway. And then there was crying. Not hers, though she was crying too. A baby's cry. Sharp and indignant and absolutely perfect. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, placing the tiny, squirming bundle on Maya's chest. Maya looked down at her daughter. She had a shock of dark hair and the tiniest fingers Maya had ever seen. Her eyes were screwed shut, her face red from crying, and she was the most beautiful thing Maya had ever seen in her life. "Hi, baby girl," Maya whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. "I'm your mom. I've got you. I've always got you." She named her Aurora. After the northern lights her grandmother had once described to her, natural beauty that appeared in the darkest nights. It felt appropriate. 2 days later, still in the hospital, Maya had another visitor, a lawyer, professionally dressed, with a leather briefcase and an expression that suggested this was just another appointment in a busy day. "Miss Chen?" The woman extended her hand. "I'm Jennifer Walsh. I'm representing Mr. Blackwell." Maya's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" "May I sit?" Without waiting for an answer, the lawyer pulled up a chair. She opened her briefcase and pulled out documents. More papers. Always more papers with Ethan. "Mr. Blackwell wanted me to deliver these personally," Jennifer said. "They're termination of parental rights forms. If you sign them, he'll provide a lump sum payment of $200,000, plus an educational trust for the child. In exchange, he requests complete anonymity and release from any future obligations." Maya stared at the papers like they were coated in poison. "He wants to pay me to pretend he doesn't exist?" "Mr. Blackwell believes this arrangement is in everyone's best interest," the lawyer said in that carefully neutral tone they must teach in law school. "It provides financial security for you and your daughter while allowing Mr. Blackwell to continue his business operations without distraction." There was that word again. Distraction. "Get out," Maya said quietly. "Ms. Chen, if you'll just look at the numbers." "Get out of my room." Her voice was steel now, sharp enough to cut. "And you can tell Ethan Blackwell that he can take his money and his papers and shove them somewhere the sun doesn't shine. My daughter deserves better than a father who sees her as a line item to be resolved." Jennifer Walsh packed up her briefcase with practiced efficiency. At the door, she paused. "For what it's worth," she said, her professional mask slipping just slightly, "I hope you and your daughter do well." After she left, Maya held Aurora close and cried. Not from sadness this time, from rage, from determination, from a fierce, burning resolve that turned her fear into fuel. "You hear that, baby girl?" she whispered into Aurora's tiny ear. "Your father thinks he can buy his way out of knowing you. He thinks money fixes everything. He's wrong. And one day I'm going to make sure he knows exactly how wrong he is." The first year was survival. Pure, exhausting survival. Maya worked from home doing freelance marketing, building a client list one connection at a time while Aurora napped. She slept maybe 4 hours a night. Every spare dollar went into savings. She had a plan now, a dream that kept her going through the sleepless nights. She was going to build something bigger than Ethan Blackwell. 1 year turned into 2. Maya's freelance work evolved into specializing in social media strategy for tech startups. She was good at it. Better than good. By the time Aurora turned 2, Maya had incorporated her own company, Chen Digital Strategies. 3 employees working out of a shared office space, small but growing. She landed a contract with a mid-sized tech firm. Then another. Her reputation grew. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. Meridian Tech, one of Blackwell Industries' biggest competitors, approached her. They wanted Chen Digital as partners. It was the kind of contract that could take her company from startup to major player overnight. Maya negotiated hard. She'd learned from the best. By the time the ink dried, her company had become Meridian's exclusive digital strategy partner with a 5-year contract worth 8 figures. Her company exploded. Within months, she had 30 employees, then 50, then 100. She moved into a real office building, hired executives, started attending conferences. People began recognizing her name. Maya Chen? The digital strategy genius? She'd smile modestly, but inside, she'd be thinking, "Remember this name, Ethan." Aurora grew from a baby into a bright, curious toddler who loved books and asked questions and had her mother's eyes and, heartbreakingly, her father's smile. When Aurora asked about her daddy, Maya kept her answers vague. "He's not in our lives, sweetie. But we're okay. We have each other. And that's enough." It was enough. Most days, but sometimes, usually late at night when Aurora was asleep and Maya was alone with her thoughts and her memories, she'd wonder what Ethan was doing. If he ever thought about the daughter he'd rejected. If he ever regretted his choices. Probably not. And then came the day that would change everything. The day Maya's phone rang with a call from her head of acquisitions. "We need to talk," David said, his voice tight with barely contained excitement. "It's about Blackwell Industries." Maya's heart stopped. "What about them?" "They're vulnerable. Really vulnerable. There was a scandal, a major one involving their CFO. Stock prices are tanking. Board is in chaos. And word is, they're looking for a buyout before things get worse." "A buyout," Maya repeated, her mind racing. "By whom?" "By anyone with enough capital and credibility to stabilize the company," David said. "Maya, this is it. This is the opportunity we've been positioning for. Meridian wants us to lead the acquisition team. If we pull this off, Chen Digital won't just be a player in this industry. We'll be royalty." Maya's hand tightened on the phone. Blackwell Industries, Ethan's company, the empire he'd built, the thing he valued more than anything else in the world, more than her, more than their daughter, and now it could be hers. "Set up a meeting," Maya said, her voice steady despite the hurricane of emotions inside her. "I want to know everything." The next 3 months were a whirlwind of due diligence, negotiations, and strategic maneuvering. Maya threw herself into the acquisition with a focus that impressed even her most ambitious employees. She studied every aspect of Blackwell Industries: financial reports, management structures, product lines, market position. She knew that company inside and out by the time the final meeting approached. The meeting where she would come face to face with Ethan Blackwell for the first time in 3 years. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, Maya felt only a cold, calm sense of purpose. She'd prepared for this moment without knowing she was preparing for it. Every late night of work, every successful pitch, every strategic victory. It had all been leading here, to the moment when Ethan Blackwell would look across a boardroom table and see not his former assistant, not the woman he'd discarded, but his equal. Or rather, his superior. Because if this deal went through, and Maya was going to make damn sure it went through, she wouldn't just be buying Blackwell Industries. She would be owning it, running it. And Ethan Blackwell, the man who'd fired her when she needed him most, would be working for her. The universe had a sense of irony after all. The morning of the meeting, Maya stood in front of her closet for longer than usual. What did you wear to face down the man who'd broken your heart and rejected your child? The man whose company you were about to acquire? She settled on a tailored navy suit that cost more than her entire wardrobe had 3 years ago. Her hair, once long and wavy, was now cut in a sharp professional bob. She looked like power. She felt like war. "Mama, you look pretty," Aurora said from the doorway of Maya's bedroom. At nearly 3 years old, she was all big eyes and wild curls, wearing her favorite princess pajamas. Maya's heart clenched. She knelt down and pulled her daughter into a hug. "Thank you, baby girl. Mama has a really important meeting today." "Is it scary?" Aurora asked, with the uncanny perception children sometimes have. "A little bit," Maya admitted. "But Mama's brave, right?" "The bravest," Aurora said seriously. Maya kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "I'm doing this for us," she whispered. "For you. So you grow up knowing that women don't need anyone to save them. We save ourselves." "Okay," Aurora said, not really understanding but accepting it the way children do. "Can we have pancakes when you get home?" "We can have anything you want." At the office, Maya's team was already assembled. David, her head of acquisitions; Jennifer, her CFO, not the same Jennifer who'd brought those insulting papers to the hospital, but another brilliant woman Maya had recruited last year; Marcus, her chief legal counsel, and a dozen other key players, all ready for battle. "Everyone clear on the strategy?" Maya asked, standing at the head of the conference table. A chorus of affirmatives. Maya nodded. "Remember, this isn't just business. Blackwell Industries is reeling, but they're not beaten. Ethan Blackwell is a fighter. He'll try every trick in the book to maintain control. We need to be better, sharper, more prepared than he is. Can we do that?" "Absolutely," David said, and the others echoed his confidence. Maya looked at each of them. These people she'd assembled, this team she'd built, her empire. Small compared to what Ethan had created, but strong, growing. Powerful in ways that had nothing to do with size, and everything to do with loyalty, innovation, and hunger. "Then let's go change the game," Maya said. The meeting was at Meridian Tech's headquarters, neutral ground that gave Maya the home field advantage. She'd insisted on that. The Blackwell team would be walking into her world, not the other way around. Maya arrived first, as always. She positioned herself at the head of the table, a deliberate choice, the power seat. Then she waited. She heard them before she saw them. Footsteps in the hallway. Voices. And then the door opened. And there he was. Ethan Blackwell. He looked almost exactly the same. Same sharp suits, same ice blue eyes, same aura of controlled authority. But there were differences too. New lines around his eyes, a tightness to his jaw that suggested stress. The scandal that had rocked his company had clearly taken its toll. He walked in flanked by his own team, his eyes scanning the room with the predatory assessment of a man used to being the most powerful person in any space. And then his gaze landed on Maya. He stopped, completely froze mid-step. Maya watched the sequence of emotions flash across his face. Shock, disbelief, recognition, and something else, something she couldn't quite name. For just a second, his careful control slipped, and she saw the man beneath the mask. Then it was gone, replaced by cold professionalism. "Ms. Chen," he said, his voice betraying nothing. "Mr. Blackwell," Maya replied with a slight smile. "Thank you for coming. Please sit down. We have a lot to discuss." Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. He glanced at his team, then back at her. She could see him recalculating, reassessing, trying to figure out what game was being played. "I wasn't aware you'd be leading this negotiation," he said. "There's a lot you're not aware of," Maya said smoothly. "Shall we begin?" Ethan took the seat directly across from her. Not the power seat, she noted with satisfaction. He'd already lost that battle just by walking into this room. For the next hour, Maya laid out Meridian's offer with clinical precision. Purchase price, terms, transition timeline. She spoke with the confidence of someone who'd spent months preparing for this exact moment. She answered every question from Ethan's team with facts and figures that made it clear she knew his company better than he thought possible. She watched Ethan throughout, saw him trying to maintain his composure while his world shifted beneath his feet. "This is a generous offer," Ethan finally said when she'd finished. His voice was tight. "But it essentially amounts to a complete takeover. I'd retain no decision-making authority." "That's correct," Maya said. "Meridian and Chen Digital would be acquiring full controlling interest. You'd remain as a consultant during the transition period, of course. Your expertise would be valued." "Valued," Ethan repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. "How diplomatic." "Would you prefer I be less diplomatic?" Maya asked, her tone sharp now. "Because I can do that too. Your company is bleeding money and credibility. Your board is ready to mutiny. Your stock price has dropped 40% in 6 months. You need this buyout, Mr. Blackwell. The only question is whether you're going to accept it with grace or watch your life's work crumble while you cling to pride." The room went silent. Even Maya's own team looked slightly shocked at her directness. Ethan's jaw clenched. She could see him fighting to keep his composure, to not lash out the way he clearly wanted to. "I need to discuss this with my board," he finally said. "Of course," Maya said pleasantly. "You have 48 hours. After that, we'll be pursuing other opportunities." She stood, indicating the meeting was over. Ethan stood too, slower, like a man carrying a great weight. As his team filed out, he lingered for just a moment. "Maya," he said quietly. Just her first name, for the first time in 3 years. She met his gaze steadily. "Yes?" He opened his mouth, closed it. For a second, she thought he might actually say something real, something human. Then his mask slid back into place. "Nothing," he said. "I'll be in touch." After he left, Maya's team erupted in excited chatter, already celebrating what they saw as a certain victory. But Maya just sat there, staring at the door Ethan had walked through, her heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with unfinished history. 48 hours later, Ethan called. "We accept your terms," he said, his voice flat. "Excellent," Maya replied, professional and cool. "Our legal teams will draw up the final contracts. Plan to transfer full authority within 90 days. Understood." A pause. Then, "I have one question." "Yes?" "Was this always the plan? When you left Blackwell Industries, were you already thinking about revenge?" Maya considered lying, considered taking the high road, and insisting this was just business. But something in Ethan's voice, a vulnerability she'd never heard before, made her tell the truth. "No," she said. 3 years ago, all I wanted was for you to care. About me, about our daughter. But you made it very clear that wasn't going to happen. So I built something else instead. Something that couldn't be taken away from me. And if it happens to have brought me here, to this moment, to watching you lose control of the company you valued more than your own child." She paused. "Then yes, there's satisfaction in that. a great deal of satisfaction. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long, Maya thought he'd hung up. Then he spoke, and his voice was rough with something that might have been regret. "Our daughter," he said. "Is she okay?" Maya's breath caught. In 3 years, he'd never asked. Not once. "No thanks to you," she said coldly. "But yes, she's more than okay. She's perfect. And she'll never know you tried to pay me to erase you from her life. Maya, save it, Ethan. You made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. I'll see you at the contract signing." She hung up before he could respond. And then finally, alone in her office with the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, Maya let herself feel the weight of what had just happened. She'd won. She'd actually won. The man who discarded her was now answering to her. The company that had been her whole world for 3 years was now hers to control. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, it just felt necessary. The contract signing was scheduled for the following morning. Maya arrived at her office early, as always, but this time she wasn't alone. Aurora was with her, playing quietly in the corner with her toys. Maya had kept her daughter separate from her professional life until now. But today was different. Today, Ethan Blackwell needed to see exactly what he'd thrown away. Maya was reviewing the final contracts when her phone rang. It was David. "They're here. Ethan and his team just arrived." "Give me 5 minutes," Maya said. "Then send them to the boardroom." She looked at herself in the mirror behind her office door. Navy suit, perfectly tailored. Hair sleek and professional. The picture of success. But it was the woman holding her hand that really completed the image. "Mama, why am I here?" Aurora asked, looking up with those big, curious eyes. "Because today's special, baby girl," Maya said, kneeling down to her daughter's level. "Today, Mama's going to show some people that we're strong, that we built something amazing. Just you and me." "Are we strong?" Aurora asked. "The strongest," Maya promised. She led Aurora down the hallway toward the boardroom, her heart pounding with each step. This was it. The moment 3 years in the making. The moment of reckoning. When she opened the boardroom door, Ethan was already seated at the table with his legal team. He looked up, and his eyes met hers. Then his gaze dropped to the little girl holding Maya's hand. Maya watched the color drain from his face, watched recognition flash in his eyes. Those same blue eyes that Aurora had inherited from him. "Hello, Ethan," Maya said calmly. "I'd like you to meet someone very important. This is Aurora, your daughter." The room went completely silent. Ethan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He stared at Aurora like she was a ghost. At his daughter. The child he'd rejected 3 years ago. The child he'd offered money to forget about. "Shall we discuss the terms of your new employment?" Maya asked, her voice steady and cold as ice. "I think we have quite a lot to talk about." Ethan couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at the little girl with his eyes. She had Maya's nose, Maya's smile, but those eyes, those were undeniably his. Aurora looked up at him with the fearless curiosity only children possessed, her small hand gripping Maya's tightly. "Mama, who's that man?" Aurora asked in that clear, innocent voice that seemed to cut through all the tension in the room like a knife. Maya didn't take her eyes off Ethan. "That's a man Mama used to work for, sweetheart." A very long time ago. Ethan's legal team shifted uncomfortably in their seats. His lead attorney, Richard, cleared his throat. "Ms. Chen, perhaps this isn't the appropriate venue for personal matters. We're here to finalize the acquisition." "Oh, but it is appropriate," Maya said, her voice silk over steel. "Mr. Blackwell and I have unfinished business that directly relates to this acquisition. You see, 3 years ago, when I worked as his assistant, I became pregnant with his child. And instead of taking responsibility, he fired me. Threw me out like garbage. Tried to pay me to disappear." She paused, letting the words sink in. "So yes, this is exactly the appropriate venue." Richard's face went pale. He glanced at Ethan, who still hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. "Mr. Blackwell, is this true?" Ethan's jaw worked. Finally, he found his voice. "Richard, give us the room. Everyone out." "Sir, I don't think that's wise," Richard protested. "Out. Now." The command in Ethan's voice was absolute. His team gathered their papers and filed out quickly. Maya's team looked at her questioningly. She nodded. "David, take everyone to the conference room next door. And can you take Aurora to my office? There are snacks in the drawer and her favorite show on the tablet." David moved forward, but Aurora tightened her grip on Maya's hand. "Mama?" "It's okay, baby girl. Mama needs to talk to the man for just a little while. Uncle David will take good care of you." Aurora looked uncertain, but she trusted her mother completely. She let David lead her out, glancing back at Ethan one more time with those piercing blue eyes before the door closed. Then it was just the two of them. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Ethan stood slowly, his hands braced on the table like he needed it for support. "She's beautiful," he finally said, his voice rough. "Of course she's beautiful," Maya replied coldly. "Did you think your daughter would be anything less?" "I didn't think about her at all." The admission came out raw, honest in a way that shocked them both. "I spent 3 years not thinking about her. About you. Telling myself I'd made the right choice. That my company needed my full focus. That a child would be a distraction I couldn't afford. And how did that work out for you?" Maya gestured around the empty room. "Your company's in ruins. You're about to lose everything you built. Turns out the only thing that was actually a distraction was your inability to see what really mattered." Ethan flinched like she'd struck him. "You're right. About all of it. I was a coward. I was so terrified of failing as a father that I chose not to be one at all. I chose my company over my child, over you, and I've regretted it every single day since." Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You have a funny way of showing regret, Ethan. You sent a lawyer to the hospital 2 days after Aurora was born, with papers trying to erase yourself from her life. With money, as if that could fix what you'd done. I know. I was trying to give you an out, to make things easier. Easier for whom? For me? Or for you?" Ethan closed his eyes. "For me. It was always for me. I didn't know how to be what you needed, what she needed. So I convinced myself that the best thing I could do was stay away, that you'd both be better off without me." "You were half right," Maya said. "We are better off. Aurora has grown up strong and loved and secure. She doesn't know what it's like to have a father who sees her as an inconvenience. She doesn't carry that wound, and I've made damn sure she never will. Maya, I'm sorry. I know those words are insufficient. I know they don't change anything. But I need you to know that not a day has passed that I haven't thought about what I threw away. Not a day I haven't wondered about her, about you, what you were doing. If you were okay. If she was okay. We're more than okay. We're thriving. No thanks to you." Maya's voice was sharp, cutting. "And now you want absolution? You want me to tell you it's okay? That I forgive you? I don't. I won't. You had a choice, Ethan. You could have been a father. You could have been a partner. You chose money and power instead. So now you get to live with that." Ethan nodded slowly. He looked broken in a way Maya had never seen. The powerful CEO, the untouchable businessman, reduced to a man facing the consequences of his worst decision. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "What can I possibly do to make this right?" "Nothing," Maya said. "There's nothing you can do. The contract signing happens in an hour. You'll sign over your company. You'll work as a consultant for 6 months during the transition. And then you'll be done. Gone. Out of my life. Out of Aurora's life. Just like you wanted. Is that what you want?" Ethan's eyes met hers, and for the first time since he'd walked into the room, she saw genuine emotion there. Pain. Regret. Something that looked almost like grief. "What I want doesn't matter anymore," Maya said. But even as the words left her mouth, she felt something shift inside her. a crack in the armor she'd built so carefully. She'd spent 3 years preparing for this moment. 3 years building her company, her success, her revenge. She'd imagined it would feel triumphant, satisfying. Instead, standing here with Ethan looking at her like she was the sun, and he was a man dying of cold, she just felt tired. Tired of the anger. Tired of the hurt. Tired of carrying this weight. I want to know her. Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. I want to be her father. I know I have no right to ask. I know I don't deserve it. But Maya, please. Don't let my mistakes cost her a father. Don't let them cost me my daughter. You made that choice 3 years ago, Maya said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. You can't just decide now that you want to be a father because it's convenient. Because you've lost everything else. Aurora isn't a consolation prize. I know that. God, Maya, I know that. But I'm asking anyway. I'm begging. Give me a chance to prove I can be better. That I can be the father she deserves. The man you deserved 3 years ago. Maya turned away from him, walking to the window. Outside, Seattle sparkled in the morning sun. Somewhere in this building, Aurora was probably eating goldfish crackers and watching cartoons, completely unaware that her entire life might be about to change. Do you know what she asked me last month? Maya said quietly. She asked me why she doesn't have a daddy like the other kids at daycare. Why it's just her and me. And I told her that some families are different. That our family is small but strong. That we have each other and that's enough. She paused. But I saw her face, Ethan. I saw the question in her eyes. The longing. She's only 3, but she already knows something's missing. He moved closer but didn't touch her. Let me be what's missing. Let me try. And what happens when you fail? When being a father turns out to be harder than you thought? When Aurora becomes inconvenient? Do I just watch my daughter's heart break because you decided you weren't cut out for this after all? I won't fail her. I swear to you, Maya, I won't fail her again. You already did fail her. You failed her when you chose your company over her existence. You failed her when you tried to pay me to erase you. You failed her every day for 3 years. Maya's voice cracked despite her efforts to stay strong. How do I trust that you won't fail her again? You don't, Ethan said simply. You can't. Trust is earned, and I haven't earned anything from you except your contempt. But let me earn it. Let me show up. Let me be present. Let me prove that I've changed. That losing everything has taught me what actually matters. Maya closed her eyes. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. She was supposed to destroy him, take his company, watch him crumble, and walk away victorious. She wasn't supposed to see his humanity. Wasn't supposed to remember the man she'd fallen for 3 years ago. The man who'd occasionally shown glimpses of warmth beneath the ice. Who'd once stayed up all night with her finishing a presentation, bringing her coffee and making her laugh. Who'd looked at her at that gala like she was the most fascinating woman in the world. That man was still in there somewhere, buried under years of fear and ambition and terrible choices. I need to think, Maya said finally. The signing happens in an hour. We'll do that. Then I need time to figure out what's best for Aurora. Not for you, not for me, for her. That's all I'm asking, Ethan said. Time, a chance, nothing more. Maya turned back to face him. If I allow this, if I even consider letting you into Aurora's life, there will be rules, strict ones. You don't get to just waltz in and play daddy when it's convenient. You show up. Every week, every scheduled visit. You don't get to break promises to her. You don't get to let her down. Because if you do, if you hurt my daughter, I will make losing your company look like the best thing that ever happened to you. Do you understand? I understand. And you don't get to buy her love. No expensive gifts, no trying to make up for 3 years of absence with toys and trips and money. You earn her trust the hard way, by being present, by being consistent, by actually caring. I do care, Maya. I know you don't believe that, but I do. Then prove it. Maya walked to the door and opened it. Get your team. Let's sign these papers, and then we'll talk about what comes next. An hour later, the contracts were signed. Blackwell Industries officially belonged to Meridian Tech and Chen Digital Strategies. Ethan Blackwell, the man who'd once been one of the most powerful CEOs on the West Coast, was now an employee, a consultant with no real power, working for the woman he'd once fired. His team had been subdued during the signing. They knew what this meant, the end of an era, the fall of an empire. But Ethan had signed every page without hesitation, his hand steady, his face calm. If he felt the weight of what he was losing, he didn't show it. After the others left, Maya and Ethan stood in her office. Aurora was asleep on the couch, curled up with her favorite stuffed rabbit, exhausted from the excitement of the day. "She's so peaceful," Ethan whispered, staring at his daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. Which, Maya realized, she probably was. The only thing he had left now that his company was gone. "She sleeps like you do," Maya said without thinking. On her back, one hand up by her face. "It used to drive me crazy when we traveled together for work. You'd fall asleep on planes in exactly that position." Ethan smiled, sad and wistful. "I'd forgotten you noticed things like that about me." "I noticed everything about you," Maya admitted. "It's hard not to notice someone when you're in love with them." The words hung in the air between them. Past tense. Were in love. Not are. "Were you in love with me?" Ethan asked carefully. Maya looked at Aurora, not at him. "I thought I was. Or maybe I was in love with who I thought you were. The man who occasionally let his guard down, who laughed at my jokes, who looked at me sometimes like I mattered. But that man wasn't real, or he wasn't real enough." "He was real," Ethan said quietly. "He just didn't know how to be brave enough to stay real. Being vulnerable terrified me more than any business deal ever could, so I hid behind my work, behind my success, and I lost everything that actually mattered." Maya finally looked at him. "People don't change, Ethan. Not really. You'll always be the man who chooses the safe option, who runs when things get hard." "You're wrong," Ethan said, and there was steel in his voice now. "People can change. I have changed. Losing my company was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it finally showed me what was important. For 3 years, I buried myself in work, told myself I was happy, successful, fulfilled. But I was empty, Maya. Completely empty. And seeing Aurora today, seeing what I threw away, it broke something in me. Or maybe it fixed something. I don't know. But I know I'm not the same man I was 3 years ago." "Prove it," Maya said again. "Okay." Ethan pulled out his phone and made a call. "Richard? I need you to draw up papers. I'm setting up a trust fund for Aurora Chen. Full access when she turns 18. Managed by Maya until then. Transfer funds to start immediately." "How much?" "Everything. Every asset I have left after the acquisition. Everything." He paused, listening to his lawyer's protests. "I don't care if it's unconventional. Just do it. Today." He hung up and looked at Maya. "I know you said no buying her love. This isn't that. This is me making sure she's provided for, making sure she has opportunities, making sure my daughter never has to struggle the way you've had to struggle because of my choices." Maya's eyes widened. "Ethan, that's not necessary." "It is to me. You said prove I've changed. This is me proving it. Money was all I cared about 3 years ago. Now I'm giving it all to the daughter I should have cherished from the beginning. That's just money. That's the easy part. I know. So let me do the hard part too. Let me show up. Let me be her father. Please, Maya. Give me one chance." Maya looked at Aurora, still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the adult drama unfolding around her. Her daughter deserved to know her father, deserved the chance to have both parents in her life, even if that father had made terrible mistakes. Everyone deserved a second chance, didn't they? "One chance," Maya said finally. "You get one chance. We start slow. Supervised visits. You show up every Saturday at 10 a.m. We go to the park or the children's museum or somewhere public. You spend 2 hours with her. with me present. You do that consistently for 3 months without missing a single week, and we'll talk about expanding the arrangement. But you miss even once, you're late even once, and you're done. Aurora doesn't need a part-time father who shows up when it's convenient. I'll be there, Ethan said, every Saturday. 10 a.m., I promise. Don't promise me. Promise her when she's awake. Ethan nodded. He looked at Aurora again with an expression that was pure longing, mixed with regret. Can I ask you something? What? Do you think she'll ever forgive me? Do you think she'll ever understand why I wasn't there? Maya considered the question carefully. I think children have an infinite capacity for love and forgiveness. If you show up now, if you're present and consistent and real, she won't care about the past. She'll only care about who you are to her now. But that's a gift, Ethan. Don't waste it. I won't. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Maya? Yes? Thank you. For this chance. For not shutting me out completely. I know I don't deserve it. You're right, Maya said. You don't. But Aurora deserves to know her father. So don't thank me. Thank her. And then spend the rest of your life being worthy of her. The first Saturday came. Maya woke up early, nervous in a way she hadn't expected. She'd told Aurora yesterday that someone special wanted to meet her, that there was a man who was her daddy, and he wanted to spend time with her. Aurora had been curious but cautious, asking questions Maya did her best to answer honestly without sharing too much. Now, standing in her kitchen watching Aurora eat cereal with milk dribbling down her chin, Maya wondered if she was making a huge mistake. What if Ethan didn't show up? What if he was late? What if he took one look at the reality of parenting a 3-year-old and ran? At 9:55, there was a knock at the door. Maya checked the peephole. Ethan stood there in jeans and a casual shirt, looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. Not the powerful CEO. Just a man about to meet his daughter. She opened the door. You're early, she said. I've been parked outside since 9:30, Ethan admitted. I was too anxious to wait anywhere else. Is that okay? That I'm early? It's fine. Maya stepped aside to let him in. Ethan entered slowly, taking in her apartment. It was modest compared to the penthouse he probably lived in, but it was warm and filled with evidence of Aurora's presence. Toys in a basket, drawings on the refrigerator, tiny shoes by the door. Mama, who's here? Aurora appeared from the living room, curious. She looked at Ethan with those blue eyes, studying him seriously. Aurora, sweetheart, this is Ethan, the man I told you about. Your daddy. Ethan knelt down slowly, putting himself at Aurora's eye level. His hands were shaking slightly. Hi, Aurora. It's so nice to finally meet you properly. Aurora tilted her head. You have eyes like me. I do, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. We have the same eyes. How come you weren't here before? The question was innocent, but it cut through Ethan like a blade. Maya saw him struggle for words. I made a mistake, he finally said. A really big mistake. I should have been here. I wanted to be here. But I was scared and I made the wrong choice. I'm sorry for that. But I'm here now, if you'll let me. I'd really like to be your daddy, if that's okay with you. Aurora considered this with the seriousness only children can muster. Do you know how to play dinosaurs? Ethan blinked at the abrupt shift. I don't think I do. Can you teach me? I guess so, Aurora said. But you have to make good roaring sounds. Mama's not very good at roaring. Despite everything, Maya smiled. My roaring is perfectly adequate. Thank you very much. It's okay, Mama. You're good at other things. Aurora took Ethan's hand with complete trust and started pulling him toward her toy box. Come on, Daddy. I'll show you my T-Rex. His name is Bob. Ethan looked back at Maya, his eyes shining with unshed tears, mouthing the words, thank you, before he let Aurora lead him into her world of dinosaurs and imagination. For the next 2 hours, Maya watched Ethan play with their daughter. He was clumsy at first, unsure how to interact with a 3-year-old, but Aurora was a patient teacher. She showed him how to make Bob the T-Rex fight with Larry the Triceratops. She insisted he do all the voices for her other dinosaurs. She corrected his roaring technique repeatedly until it met her exacting standards. And Ethan, the man who'd once run a billion-dollar company with absolute authority, took direction from a toddler with complete humility. He roared when told to roar. He made Larry lose the fight because Aurora said that's how the story went. He let her climb on his back and pretend he was a brachiosaurus. Maya found herself tearing up watching them. This was what Aurora had been missing. This was what should have been there from the beginning. When 2 hours were up, Aurora didn't want Ethan to leave. "But we didn't finish the volcano story," she protested. Ethan looked at Maya questioningly. She nodded. "One more story. Then Daddy has to go, but he'll be back next Saturday." "Promise?" Aurora asked Ethan. "I promise," Ethan said solemnly. "Every Saturday. I'll be here every Saturday to play with you." "And you'll get better at roaring?" "I'll practice all week." After Aurora finally released him and Maya got her set up with a coloring book, Ethan stood at the door, clearly reluctant to leave. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That was the best 2 hours of my life." "She liked you," Maya admitted. "Don't make me regret this, Ethan." "I won't. I swear. Same time next week. Same time." As Ethan left, Maya closed the door and leaned against it. Aurora looked up from her coloring. "I like Daddy. He's nice. Can he come back sooner than Saturday?" Maya smiled through her tears. "We'll see, baby girl. We'll see." The weeks turned into months. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., Ethan showed up. Not once was he late. Not once did he miss. He learned Aurora's favorite foods, her favorite games, that she loved stories about princesses who saved themselves, that she had a stubborn streak and a laugh that could light up a room. He learned how to be a father, and slowly, Maya found herself learning to trust him again. After 3 months of supervised visits, Maya allowed Ethan to take Aurora to the park alone. After 6 months, overnight visits began. After a year, joint custody was officially established. They became partners in parenting their daughter. They attended preschool concerts together. They coordinated birthday parties. They learned to communicate as parents with a shared purpose. One evening, after dropping Aurora off, Ethan asked Maya to stay. "I have something to tell you," he said. "I've been seeing a therapist for over a year, working through why I made the choices I made, my fear of vulnerability, my relationship with my own father. And I've learned that none of those reasons excuse what I did. I'm sorry, Maya. Truly sorry for everything." Maya felt tears prickling at her eyes. "Thank you for saying that. There's something else. I'm still in love with you. Every time I see you, I fall more in love. I know I have no right to tell you this, but I needed you to know." Maya's breath caught. "You can't just say that. We're successfully co-parenting. Why risk it?" "Because running from honesty got me into this mess. I love you. I want a chance to prove I can be the partner you deserved. But if you don't feel the same, nothing changes with Aurora. I just needed you to know." "I need time to think," Maya said. Maya spent weeks thinking about Ethan's confession. She talked to her best friend, Lisa. "What does your gut say?" Lisa asked. "My gut says he's changed. He shows up. He does everything right. But what if it's temporary? What if he runs again?" "Maya, that man gave up everything. He shows up every week. That doesn't sound like someone who's going to run. At some point, don't you have to let yourself be happy?" That stayed with Maya. She watched Ethan more carefully. The way he listened to Aurora. The way he'd learned to braid her hair. The way he looked at Maya when he thought she wasn't watching. People could change. Ethan had changed in every way that mattered. One Saturday, Maya asked Ethan to stay after dropping Aurora off. "I've been thinking about what you said. About wanting another chance. And I'm terrified. You hurt me so badly. But I've watched you change. And I've realized that holding on to anger was protecting me, but also preventing me from being happy. Maybe I'm ready to try being happy again. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying we can try. Slowly. We start with dates. We see if we can be more than co-parents. If we can rebuild trust. Maya, I will spend every day proving I'm worthy of that trust. Just start with today, Maya said with a smile. When can I take you on this first date? Ethan asked. His whole face lit up with a joy she'd forgotten he was capable of showing. Next Friday. Aurora will be with my mom. You can pick me up at 7. Where do you want to go? Fancy restaurant? I can reserve anywhere you want. Actually, Maya said, there's a pizza place near my old apartment. The one I lived in when I was pregnant. I used to walk past it and dream about being able to afford a whole pizza to myself. I never went because it felt too extravagant. Pizza it is, Ethan said. And Maya, thank you for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. See that you don't, she replied. But she was smiling. Friday came. Maya changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple dress. Ethan arrived at 7 with sunflowers. Her favorites. He'd remembered. They went to a pizza place near Maya's old apartment, the one she used to walk past when she was pregnant, dreaming about affording a whole pizza. Now here she was, successful and strong, sitting across from the man who'd once broken her heart. They talked for hours. About Aurora, yes, but also about themselves. Ethan told her about therapy, about his emotionally distant father who taught him that showing emotion was weakness, about learning that vulnerability wasn't a flaw but a strength. Maya told him about the early days after Aurora was born, the terror and the loneliness, about building her company from nothing, about the nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering if she was doing everything wrong. You weren't, Ethan said quietly. Look at Aurora. She's confident, happy, kind. You did that. You gave her everything she needed. We're doing it now, Maya corrected. Both of us. That's what this is about. I like the sound of that, Ethan said. Both of us. They dated for 6 months before Ethan kissed her again. 6 months of weekly dinners, of getting to know each other as the people they'd become. When he finally kissed her, it was after dropping Aurora off one Saturday. I really want to kiss you right now, Ethan said. Is that okay? Maya's heart was pounding. Yes, that's okay. It was soft, tentative, nothing like years ago. This was a promise. A beginning. A year after they started dating, Ethan proposed. Not with a grand gesture. He did it on a regular Saturday in Maya's kitchen, making lunch together with Aurora dancing around their legs singing about butterflies. Maya Chen, Ethan said, kneeling down. Aurora gasped, her eyes wide with excitement. You are the strongest, most incredible woman I've known. You took the worst thing I ever did and turned it into something beautiful. You raised our daughter to be amazing. You built an empire from nothing. You gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you, of Aurora, of this family we've built together? Aurora squealed, jumping up and down. Say yes, Mama. Say yes. Maya looked at Ethan, the man who'd broken her heart and spent years carefully putting it back together. She looked at Aurora, their beautiful daughter with her father's eyes. She thought about the pain, the growth, the healing. Sometimes the best stories were the ones where people made mistakes and then worked to fix them. Yes, Maya said, tears streaming down her face with joy. Yes, I'll marry you. Aurora cheered. Ethan stood and slipped the ring on her finger with trembling hands before kissing her deeply. Their daughter wrapped her arms around both their legs, hugging them together. We're a family, Aurora declared. A real family. We've always been a family, baby girl, Maya said, picking up her daughter. But now we get to make it official. Ethan wrapped his arms around both of them, his 2 girls, his entire world. I love you both so much. I promise I will spend every day making sure you never doubt that. We know, Daddy, Aurora said. You're really good at loving us now. They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony. Aurora was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. When Ethan and Maya exchanged vows, Aurora stood between them, holding both their hands. I promise to love you, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. Every day, in big ways and small ways. I promised to show up, to be present, to never run from hard things. I promised to be the partner you deserve and the father our daughter needs. I promised to trust you, Maya said, even when it's scary. I promised to build our future together instead of holding on to the past. I promised to love you not despite our history, but because of it. Because it made us who we are. They kissed as husband and wife while Aurora cheered. Later, at the reception, Maya stood with Ethan watching Aurora dance. "Can you believe we're here?" Ethan asked. "We did more than make it," Maya said. "We built something real. Something strong." "I have something for you," Ethan said, handing her an envelope. Inside was a contract transferring his remaining shares to her. "Ethan, this is too much. You don't have to do this." "I want to. That company was my whole life once, but it's not anymore. You are. Aurora is. This family is. Besides, you've done more with that company in 3 years than I did in 10. It should be yours completely." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. Well, except marrying you." Maya folded the contract and set it aside. "We'll talk about this later. Right now, I just want to dance with my husband." They joined Aurora on the dance floor, the three of them forming a circle, hands joined, spinning and laughing. Aurora's joy was infectious. Ethan's love was palpable. And Maya felt a peace she'd never thought possible. This was her family. Imperfect, complicated, built from broken pieces carefully reassembled into something beautiful. This was her happy ending. Not because everything had been easy, but because they'd chosen to fight for each other. Years later, when Aurora asked how her parents got together, Maya and Ethan told her the truth, about the mistakes and the hurt, about the journey from anger to forgiveness. And Aurora would simply smile and say, "You two were always meant to be together. You just had to figure out how to be brave enough to try." She was right. Sometimes courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and choosing love anyway.